Joining me now is Doc Washburn. He is a Republican candidate for Arkansas governor. Doc, good to have you with us. Good to see you.
Good to be here. Thank you very much, Roby.
Let's start with a biography of yourself for people who do not know. Give me the elevator pitch of where you kind of got your start in your career in radio, how you grew up, how you got to Arkansas.
Yeah, I was born in Norfolk, Virginia, grew up in Charlotte, North Carolina. Got into radio in my senior year of college at UNC Charlotte. I got into radio because I love music. Couldn't imagine anything more boring to listen to a guy just talk on the radio without playing records until I eventually became one of those boring guys talking on the radio without playing records. And came here from Panama City, Florida in 2014. I was with News Radio 1029 KRN for 7 years and 3 months, longest job I ever had in my life. And unfortunately, Cumulus Media decided last fall they were going to fire anybody anywhere in America who worked for their company that was unwilling to get the vaccine. And so they let me go in October. We kind of saw it coming. They gave everybody 2 months notice on that. So some business partners of mine and I established a podcast at docwashburnshow.com. I do 5 shows a week, got some advertisers. That's going real well. And I never in my wildest dreams ever thought I was going to run for this or any other office.
So what motivated you to get into this race for Arkansas governor?
That's a good follow-up question, Roby. You've been doing this for a while. I appreciate that. So what motivated me when Sarah Huckabee Sanders, who was the only Republican candidate for the nomination for governor, went on her Facebook page and endorsed Senator John Bozeman for re-election and U.S. Representative French Hill for re-election and got hundreds of negative responses, overwhelming negative response. My phone started ringing and people wanted me to run against her. And I said what I always say when somebody wants me to run for office: I'm sorry, you got the wrong guy. I'm not cut out for that. I'm a talk show host. This is what I'm about. And when Jan Morgan called me up, who primaried Asa Hutchinson back in 2018, is now primarying John Bozeman for the senatorial race, she said, look, you don't understand what's going on here. We're about to lose our country. Good people like you need to stand up and run for office. You need to talk to your wife and pray about it. Well, when you tell a Christian to talk to his wife and pray about something, it's kind of hard to say no. I mean, what's the downside? I said, okay, Jan, okay. So I talked to my wife about it. I'm like, okay, I was just on the phone with Jan, and here's what she said. And we talked about it. We prayed about it. My wife said, this is way over my head. I trust your judgment, but I didn't trust my own judgment. And I know there's a proverb that says there's wisdom in the abundance of counselors. So the next evening I met with about 10 or 11 people in a conference room. We kicked it around for 2.5 hours. The 2 main questions that I remember, somebody said, okay, if you're going to run for office, would this be just like PR stunt to publicize your podcast, or would you actually be trying to win? I said, no, if I'm going to run for governor, it's because I want to win. Somebody else said, what would your top priority be if you're going to run for office? I said, to glorify God, because we're supposed to glorify God in everything. Jan Morgan, who's at the meeting, said, that's what I've been waiting to hear. And so by the end of the 2.5 hours, everybody was unanimous. There were no dissenting votes. I was scheduled to speak Saline County Republican Women's Club already the next night. And I told them, A, what it meant that Sarah had endorsed Bozeman, B, what it meant she'd endorsed French Hill, C, what I thought it meant that when the governor endorsed her, she said what a great job he'd been doing. And she's getting all these complaints. She won't talk about issues. She won't answer questions. And I told these ladies it costs $15,000 to file to run. If the Lord provides the $15,000, I'm going to file. I'm running for governor. And they started contributing that evening. And I filed, and I'm officially running for Republican nomination for governor.
The rest is history. All right. Well, your website, and you've alluded to this, your website says no more rhinos, Republicans in name only for governor.
Yes, sir.
You obviously consider Governor Asa Hutchinson a Republican in name only. You've disagreed with him on some policy.
Yes, sir.
Do you think that Sarah Huckabee Sanders is a Republican in name only?
I'm glad you asked that, Roby. There's an old Spanish proverb, show me who you walk with, and I will show you who you are. And she walks with Bozeman, French Hill, and Asa Hutchinson. 90% of her contributions are either from PACs or from out-of-state folks. She's got all kinds of Democrat political activists in other parts of the country contributing to her. She won't answer any questions about wait a minute, why are you endorsing all these people who say all these horrible things about your former boss, Donald Trump? He's the reason you are where you are. So absolutely, I believe she's a rhino. I believe that a Sarah Huckabee Sanders term would be a third Asa Hutchinson term.
She does have the endorsement of President Donald Trump, and
That's right.
you would obviously not turn that endorsement down if you were offered
Sure.
that endorsement there.
Right.
So how do you reconcile that she's a Republican in name only when she has Donald Trump's
Right.
endorsement?
Well, I think Donald Trump is loyal to a fault. I think he also doesn't always get the best advice. I'll give you a perfect example. Marjorie Taylor Greene is the freshman congresswoman out of Northwest Georgia. And President Trump endorsed one of her competitors in the Republican primary. And as have several other people who won office, she basically said, look, I don't understand why the president endorsed my opponent, but I'm the America First candidate. And here's why. And the people, the constituents went for her overwhelmingly. Roby, I was at the Benton County Republican Party, Walmart territory, Tuesday night. I got a standing ovation, and people were coming up to me afterwards saying things like, I never thought anybody would be able to peel my support away from Sarah for governor, but I'm going to vote for you now. I've got a message. She's got money. I think there's a big difference.
All right. You talk about a few things that Sarah Huckabee Sanders won't answer, and I will just disclose to you, I have made 20 offers to her to come on this program to come talk to us about where she stands on some different positions. She seems to have conflicts of interest or does not respond to those, at least not in the affirmative. You talk about school choice, you talk about critical race theory, you talk about your position pro-life. And with Sarah, who knows? That is the phrase that you have used as to where does she stand on these issues. Why do you think she won't answer these questions?
Well, because I think that she has so much financial backing from folks who are uncomfortable with those issues. Now, I will say this. Once I announced I was running, all of a sudden people on her team started paying attention to some of the Facebook comments. And they would say, well, now, wait a minute. Here she is right here in July of last year on Fox News saying that she's against mask mandate, or here's a tweet from Twitter from July of last year saying she doesn't like the vaccine mandate. Well, she doesn't like the government vaccine mandate, but if a private employer, if Tyson or Walmart or somebody wants to have a vaccine mandate, she's fine with that. I think that she has been running a general election campaign thinking that she is, by fait accompli, she's the nominee. And I think probably whoever is, giving her advice doesn't think that she needs to get down into conservative issues that Republican primary voters really care about.
Have you, has there been any conversation about doing some sort of primary debate with her?
No, sir, there hasn't. I mean, I would be happy to debate her, but when people ask me about it on social media, I say, look, she can't afford to do a debate with me. She can't afford to answer the question, well, Sarah, do you believe the election was stolen? Because she was fundraising in Indiana with her good buddy Mike Pence a few months ago. So there are just too many things that she can't address. And I'd be happy to debate her, but she can't afford it. I just don't think that's ever going to happen. So in the meantime, what I'm trying to do is go all over the state and talk to the people she's trying to avoid.
You mean she can't afford it politically, is what you're
politically?
Yeah,
oh no, she's got plenty of money in the bank.
Right.
I don't. Right? No, she can't afford it politically. Because then, if she were to come out for real school choice, let the money follow the children instead of the money going to the schools, all her support in the the teachers unions, the education community would go down the drain. I think that's just one issue, but there are plenty of other ones.
Let's talk about some budget stuff. One of the biggest issues of being Arkansas governor is managing a $6 billion budget and all of the agencies that go along with that. It's a big executive job there. You have said you want to drastically cut the size of government and you want to cut taxes. Give me, I guess, just that overview, a short answer for what are you specifically wanting to do in that respect?
Yeah, well, let me start with our child welfare situation. We're the only state in the country that has duplicate child welfare agencies. We got DCFS under Department of Human Services, and then over here we got Crimes Against Children Division under the Arkansas State Police. The only one of the 50 states that has two separate agencies doing the same thing. I don't know why that is. But I do know that they violate parents' constitutional rights on a regular basis. They take kids away from parents that haven't done anything wrong. Sometimes it takes months to get the children back. You got to prove you're innocent, you're presumed guilty. So not only would I try to figure out which one of those agencies to get rid of, but those child welfare workers have to wear a body cam when they're interacting with families, have to give parents their Miranda rights, and stop trying to buffalo their way into people's homes without warrants. People don't know their rights. Now, I know I'm not trying to get off the subject. There is a lot more stuff that needs to be cut. I think probably the Division of Environmental Quality is too big for its britches, because farmers tell me that it just makes life horrible for them. So that probably needs to be whittled down to size. There are a lot of areas in the government that I'm going to, if I get elected in November, I'm going to take a look at. The fact we have a $1.2 billion tax surplus, the fact that I hear anecdotal stories of people who work for the government and were on COVID furlough, and they just forgot to send them any work to do, and they kept on getting a paycheck, shows me there's room to cut. There's room to cut. And I want to find out exactly where. But the one that comes to mind for sure is DCFS versus Crimes Against Children Division. That's the big one that comes to mind, because that issue is near and dear to my heart.
Yeah, I don't have that number specifically in front of me,
Right.
but out of that $6 billion budget, about 93% of the budget goes through K through 12 education, higher
Right.
education, prisons and public safety, and human
Right.
services. So those other agencies like DEQ that you mentioned there, that's in that 7%
Right.
kind of deal there. If you're going to drastically cut the size of state government, how drastic is drastic? I mean, are you talking a 10% cut? Are you talking a elimination of the income tax by the year 2030, which was floated a little bit? What are some specifics?
I want to get rid of the state income tax a lot quicker than that. I want to get rid of the tax on all used goods. It's insane that the state is trolling through Facebook looking for mothers who are trying to sell used clothing their kids have grown out of. But you talk about public education. I'm glad you mentioned that, because it seems like each year the percentage of people in administration as opposed to the percentage of people actually teaching gets bigger. And I think there's got to be a lot of fat there. Now you may not be as old as I am, but I know when I was a kid, we didn't have nearly the top heavy administrative state in public education that we do now. And, I don't think that it's necessarily a good thing just to try to grow the size of government. And I think it's crazy that, we got 40 years, the last 40 years, 20 of that have been Republican governors, and they haven't done anything to cut the size of government. It would be nice if the government wasn't as big, so it wasn't able to make people's lives as difficult as it does. We got an Economic Development Commission. As far as I know, from what I gather, we always get somebody from academia to be in charge of that, not somebody who's actually had to make a payroll. But anyway, no, you're right about where 93% of it comes from. And we would have to look into that and find out exactly where the fat is. And I think there's some budget hawks in the state legislature who would definitely be part of my team and help me figure out exactly how much we could cut and how quickly.
Well, I'm going to challenge you to a homework assignment, and I will invite you back on the program after you've completed this homework assignment.
Sure.
The budget document is a public document. It's out there. It's online. The last 20 years of it's online. You could look at that today with your budget hawks or yourself even and line item this thing. And you could provide specifics on, I'm going to cut $10 million out of this department, $5 million out of this department. And this is what it all adds up to. And this is how we balance that budget and spend less money and cut state government. I want to see some specifics like that from people that talk about cutting the size of state government, cutting taxes. It's easy to say that, but it's not hard to provide the specifics on that. And I've challenged Democratic and Republican candidates in the past to do that. And I've yet to have any of them come up and show me. I'll tell you, there's been one, and that is Governor Asa Hutchinson 8 years ago said he was going to cut middle income taxes and gave a specific number. And he actually showed on a piece of paper with the state budget how he was going to do that. And he did it. So I give him props.
Let me make
on
sure
that
I
meeting.
understand something.
Yes.
You've actually had Democrat candidates who want to cut the size of government and cut taxes?
I have had them talk about where they want to make some cuts. And so, yes, I have asked for specifics. So, and then I do have some that have said they want to take the surplus and spend it in ways that they feel like would be better investments. But at least I'm asking for that on paper.
No,
So
I guess knock me over with a leaf. That's,
there you go.
but no, I mean, that's a fair point. That's a fair point. And, you know, the fact that I've come on, as opposed to Sarah, having, you know, conflicts or whatever. Yeah, that is a good homework assignment. I'm looking forward to that. I was going to have to do that anyway, right?
I'm gonna send you the budget document so you don't even have to go fishing out. All right.
Sure.
Sounds good.
Absolutely.
All right. He's Doc Washburn. He is a Republican candidate for Arkansas governor. Appreciate your time and look forward to a future visit.
Quick and painless. That went so quickly. Appreciate you, Roby. Thanks. Have a great day.